Hey, yeah. Okay, got it.
All right, Peter. So we are recording again. Good to see you again. Again, my name is, for our audience, my name is Luke Angstadt. Our channel here is titled The Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom. A little bit of background about myself. I am an author. I have a book on Amazon. It's titled The Musings of De La Pew, the study of the nature of reality, the nature of God, human beings, and how all three of them are interrelated. Peter here was going to give a little introduction about himself. He's my co-host. And then we're just going to kind of recap, summarize where we left off in the previous episode, and then kind of segue into this episode. So, Peter, if you want to make your introduction now, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I'm also very happy to see you again, my friend.
Good to see
after
you.
a brief break. So, my name is Peter Rozovic. I'm of Polish origins, and I'm the author and co-author in Amazon. I have 3 books that are recently published that are a series, and their titles are Nikola Tesla, Third Reich, and the Extraterrestrials, Culture, and the Mythologies of Techno World. And they're selling very well, so go buy them. And God, that you're talking about in our show, God likes our books.
Yes, he does. And just another recap, in the description page for our YouTube channel here, you will find links to my book, The Musings of De La Pew, and you also find the links to Peter's 3 books in the description page. So after clicking the subscribe button, check out our books on Amazon. And just to recap, so again, the title of our channel is The Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom. And where we left off on the previous episode was we were discussing alchemy, and how alchemy is more than just the medieval practice of turning base metals into gold. It also deals with spiritual transformation as well. And that's where we're getting into how Tesla and his discovery of the language that is written in the energy field that surrounds the planet is a crucial tool for setting into motion this spiritual transformation that is close ties and with alchemy. And I don't know how much of a non sequitur or segue this is, but before Peter and I decided to record for this chapter, we got into a conversation with Bobby Fischer and all the trials and travails that he went into towards the last couple of years of his life. And before we get into that, it kind of reminded me of a lesson that I learned in high school. And this is one of my favorite stories to tell. And that when I was in high school, I had a chemistry teacher who we used to have these little brain teaser puzzles that were part Sudoku, part word jumble, part crossword, and they were a combination of language and numbers games. And everyone in like maybe 10th and 11th, 12th grade, the chemistry classes, we take these puzzles home for like 2 weeks, and we'd all wrestle with them, and the other teachers would wrestle with them as well. And no one would be able to quite figure out these brain teaser puzzles. But then we give them to my high school chemistry teacher, Mr. Wolf, on like a Friday, 20 minutes before the end of the day. And he would be able to solve the puzzle. He'd go boom, boom, boom. This part's tricky. Okay, that part's neat. And without a hint of condescension in his voice, he would solve this brain teaser puzzle in 20 minutes. So to say the very least, my high school chemistry teacher was operating on another level, and everyone knew it, and it was just something that was understood. And there was a refrain that he would have. It was that everything in life is a game, and he would tie this into when we were doing our chemistry labs. He would, explaining the chemistry lab, he'd say, the chemistry labs are just a game. He said, like, don't take it too terribly seriously, that you give it your best in life. And this chemistry lab is just one small example of the macrocosm of life, and that is that everything in life is a game. So ultimately, don't take it too seriously. And my high school chemistry teacher would always come back to this several times a week. This idea, this theme that everything in life is a game. It really is. That the crux of so many of the world's ills is that people just take it too damn seriously, and that everything is a game. And if you remember that, and that you don't take it too seriously, and you do your very best, that things will turn out well for you. So obviously chess is a game. I think it's one of the greatest games in addition to poker on earth. And Peter and I, before we started recording, we were talking about Bobby Fischer, and I said, Peter, that sounds like a great. I love the story of Bobby Fischer. I love the story of chess, the history of chess. And I said, before we get too far into it, why don't we hold this thought and carry it into the podcast? So Peter, if you want to pick up with your story with Bobby Fischer, have at it.
Well, yeah, I would just want to tell you, I just want to ask you, you mentioned that your chemistry teacher's surname was Wolf, right?
Wolf. His last name was Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah. So was he a Jew? I mean,
I don't know his.
maybe,
I don't know his. I don't
maybe,
know his history, his genealogy, but he could have been. Yeah, who knows?
yeah, because I'm asking you because maybe he was a Kabbalist. Maybe he
Huh?
was a practitioner of Kabbalah
If he
because
was, he
he
kept it
was
on the
dealing
down low.
with numbers and words. You just
No, he
said.
was a wizard. Just he was an absolute wizard. I mean, maybe my story was a bit cryptic, but I mean, my point of the story was that I had a chemistry teacher that was a complete wizard, and he with yeah, and he made there was no condescension in him. I mean, the guy knew he was operating on a different level, but there was no condescension with him when he was explaining things to people. So he was a yeah. But as far as whether he was an adept of the Kabbalah, I don't know. But it certainly leads to interesting speculation there, and it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Although it's not strictly needed for an individual to be a Jew
Mm-hmm.
or Jewish descendants, or Jewish descent in order to practice, Kabbalah. Okay, so we've just mentioned Bobby Fischer, and a great friend of mine was Bobby's personal savior, and
And what's
later
his name,
on,
Peter? Peter, what was his name? Just for
his name
myself and
is,
our audience, what was his name?
yeah, it's GB,
Okay,
John Bosnich.
Don Bosnich.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, a journalist, a hemp grower. I mean, I'm speaking about the healthy hemp species, the one containing the CBD liquid, not the THC.
Mm-hmm.
And also
Which I would never dream. I would never dream of toking on the THC ever. Never.
ever
You neither, right? You would never even dream of toking on the THC version.
you,
I'm just being facetious.
yeah,
But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you're still in the U.S. territory. Is that strictly forbidden to talk about?
Oh no. We smoke it. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're allowed to smoke it here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course. So it's strictly mentioned with for the purposes of healing, and recuperating various kind of diseases. I think around 51 different types of diseases.
Yeah, not
But,
least of which, I mean, children with cerebral palsy. I mean, not a single
oh
prescription
yeah,
pill will solve their seizures, but you give them some CBD oil, the seizures are gone. I mean, it is a miracle of nature, and
oh yeah,
the
and we have to
criminalization.
utilize it. We
Yeah,
have to
yes, we do.
utilize
Yeah,
that
but
miracle.
it's a miracle of nature. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also meant for treating the genuine epileptic syndrome, because there are various cancer,
Multiple sclerosis, people that are in
multiple
unimaginable
sclerosis.
pain from MS. I mean, nothing, no pain medication will stop the pain, but you give them some CBD or THC, the pain is
Yeah,
gone. I mean, it's the number of the number of ailments that are cured, diseases that the pain is alleviated from. It's just uncountable. You can't make a full account of how many positive attributes CBD.
oh yeah, and I've even heard the rabbis, bullshit. It sounds like a racist intentional, omission. Rabbis. I wanted to say rabbis, not rabbis.
Mhm.
I was thinking about the guy who was a rabbi. That's our marital godfather. He's a rabbi in a synagogue. Okay, so the rabbis, the virus, the virus caused disease, the hydrophobia that you get after a dog bite.
Mhm.
Okay, so and I will ask him to participate in our show, so he
Yeah, I
will,
love that.
firmly confirm the whole story that I was just mentioning over here. So
We were
I
talking
would
about
just,
Bobby was in Japan, and then the president of the United States made a phone call, and then
yeah,
everything else.
yeah, we have to just make a brief, remembering of the previous events that were occurring before Japan. So as a U.S. citizen, And as a U.S. sportsman, the member of the International Chess Federation, Bobby was strictly forbidden to go to Yugoslavia, during the period of sanctions. The country was under the embargo. So any kind of mutual touch involved with with Yugoslavia involved inside was strictly forbidden by the U.S. government. So, and it previously has happened the same with Cuba, because while they were enjoying and drinking Cuba Libre on the beach near the coast nearby Havana. He was participating and attending the show from his bureau in New York City. So so he wasn't lucky at all because he was a U.S. citizen. So later on, he just broke the ban, and he played a game at the brief peninsula of the Svetostepan, in Montenegro, which was a part of the debris, the remnants of Yugoslavia, which later on decayed. It was a unity, between Serbia and Montenegro. The relic of Yugoslavia. So he played a match against Boris Spassky over there, and later on has been charged. So the threat was the potential, jurisprudential court official verdict, and the punishment that he was supposed to endure in the penitentiary in the captivity that could potentially happen to him was 5 to 10, maybe even 15 years.
Peter, there's a lot of noise in the background. Is there any way?
Oh yeah. Don't do that. Yeah. Okay. No
That's
problem.
okay. That's okay. I mean, it's just it's pretty loud.
Yeah. So for Joseph, or no problem. Yeah, I think we're just making lunch or something. Nothing big. So for Joseph, our audience who are not familiar with the topic, Bobby was later seeking asylum in Russia, and he didn't get it, and finally he went to Japan, where he was desperately seeking asylum. So the former U.S. president, George W. Bush, has called the Japanese prime minister, ordering him to arrest Bobby in a foreign country overseas. So, which sounds
and this is after he renounced his U.S. citizenship.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's worth mentioning. I almost forgot. Yeah. It's after he has renounced his U.S. citizenship. But previously, before these events occurred, Bobby was so much naive that he thought that every kind of nonsense or trouble could be solved by simply showing his U.S. passport. I'm a U.S. citizen or something. But although we both know as the holders, that's bullshit. It doesn't function that way. So the country has not only renounced himself in reverse, but was officially charging him. So George W. Bush has called the Japanese prime minister and ordered him to arrest Bobby Fischer, and that there were 9 of the, I think it was 9 of them, of the Japanese, intervention militia members who were fully armed, wearing the armor around their body, very well equipped, who were, firmly holding the katana swords, have attacked him and beat him up to death almost, right in the streets of Japan. So 9 of the samurai members were beating up an older man who was unarmed. So
and was displaying that he wasn't a threat to anyone. He wasn't acting violent. He wasn't threatening violence on anyone. This was all precipitated from one phone call from across the world, from the president
Yeah,
of the United States,
from the
Emperor of Japan,
from the
and
U.S.
from there, this
Yeah,
happened.
from the U.S.
Terrifying.
Presidential
Mhm.
chamber
Mm-hmm.
from the White House.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's a disaster, really. I
Mhm.
mean, that these things could happen, and I think it occurred in 2004 or something. So a friend of mine that I'm talking about, who's a brave guy, who I appreciate and I admire, and who I've built a good, very good, great, friendship with.
Mm-hmm.
He was working as a TV host at a Japanese television. He worked, two jobs in those times. So when he finally realized that Bobby was arrested uh, on the streets of Tokyo without any, threats against anybody, just after a call from the U.S., he was affected and stressed by that fact. And he said to himself, "All right, I'm a Serb. I'm having a partially Serbian descent." And Bobby had gone through a hell because of what? Because of the Serbian thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he played on the former Yugoslav territory. So this is nothing but a momentum of fate. This is the destiny, the sidereal momentum, and I have to intervene. I have to help him, to give him a little bit of support. So he went to the director of the Japanese TV house, the main Japanese TV house in Japan. So he said to him, "I'm quitting the job. I'm not going to work here anymore because of this, things that happened." So it's a long story, but he entered the jail chamber where Bobby was held in captivity, where he was held in imprisonment. So when he approached him, when he represented himself, Bobby's reaction was, "Oh no, you cannot do that. You're a CIA member. You're a agent provocateur. You're gonna bust me up. You're gonna destroy my life utterly. You're gonna do the rest." But Johnny told him, "All right, Bobby, we've got. I know who I am. I'm not a Jew. Probably you're the only Jew in this chamber, all right? And we've got two possible scenarios after this situation. I can go, I can leave the chamber, and as a Canadian, I will toast with my friends. We're gonna, drink beer,
Mm-hmm.
and in the restaurant, and we can, we can make a toast for the first situation would be to make a toast for an insane Bobby Fischer who did not accept my offer to try to solve the situation and to pull him out of the chamber, and to make him a free man, mm-hmm. in a sense. And the second would be we toast for a healthy, mentally healthy, Bobby Fischer, who trusted me, that I'm a friendly person who wanted to save his life. So, Bobby even said at the beginning of the conversation, "Oh, you cannot call me Bobby. Only my mother used to call me that way." And Johnny said, "All right, you're behind the bars, and I'm sitting in front of it. You're not to be blamed, because you're incarcerated. But I am in front of the bar, so I can say anything I want. So you need help, not me." So when he was leaving the chamber, Bobby said, "All right, I'm quitting. I give up." So he said, "All right, bye, Bobby. See you tomorrow." So tomorrow he came, and that's how the long struggle for saving Bobby's ass, meaning life, mm-hmm. began.
Mhm.
So it lingered for 9 months, and they were calling North Korea and their government. They were calling Russia. They were calling, Putin, everybody. Even I think even certain African countries. And Johnny will correct me when we host him here
Mhm.
if I'm wrong. So they've called and invited a whole other bunch of different countries to accept to give Bobby an asylum. But finally, they've called the Icelandic government, and it's worthy of mentioning that they agreed. So I later on did a little research about that. So even you and I mean, even the worst guys than you and I mean, I'm joking, of course. We're excellent guys.
I think so.
I mean, yeah, you and I can seek an asylum in on Iceland if
Mhm.
needed. I mean,
Mhm.
if we ever consider quitting, our U.S. Citizenships, and we can get, but we have to go. That's the policy of the state. We have to cross the step, at the airport. We have to use the aerial pathway and to jump off from the airplane, and there we have to seek for asylum. Not before that. Not in Germany. Not in the U.S. Not in Russia. Not everywhere. Not anywhere. So we have to reach Icelandic territory in order to seek for asylum. So this is where he was accepted, and and Bobby was a great man. This is why am I saying all of this?
Mhm.
And I think that 99% of the our American co-patriots will firmly agree with the statement, even if they don't take them a shit. But he was a great man, and Johnny B is a great man too. I'm saying this as a personal friend of his. So after 9 months of struggle, after they provided the Icelandic passport and the Icelandic territory, they went back to Japan, and a woman who was in charge for helping to get out of the cell, uh, she was forced to, she was given an idea by Johnny to, hold the Icelandic passport of the newborn citizen here,
Mhm.
below, behind the jacket,
Mhm.
because he knew as a worker in Japan, who lived there for almost 20 years, he knew that a Japanese police officer would not, you know, uh, get under her dress, right? Will not seek under her dress in order to find out anything, right? Because so they literally had to, you know, uh, you know, uh, I don't know what use I'm supposed to to use to embezzle
Yeah. They
the
smuggled. Yeah.
passport
Mhm.
in order to to bring it to the cell. So Bobby has become an Icelander
Mhm.
officially while still inside the cell.
Mhm.
So it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
It's worthy of making any movie.
Yeah.
At
Was he
least
still in was he still in Japan at the time, or was he in the cell in Japan when they smuggled that into him? Or
Oh yeah, he
yeah.
was in the station penitentiary institution, meaning jail in Tokyo, in the
Mhm.
capital. I mean, the probably the main jail institution. I mean, severely, uh, kept. It was impossible to escape from.
Mhm.
I think it was the main Japan, the main jail in Japan. So they were even having troubles while deporting him to the airport, because
Mhm.
the members of the CIA members were, I think those were probably the CIA members, because the FBI, as well as is able to deal and operate exclusively on the U.S. territory. They
Mhm.
control who enters and who leaves the country, and while says the person is still in the U.S. territory, so they're not in charge to. The DIA does the another thing, and the CIA is everywhere around, probably
Yeah, they are.
even on the other planetary systems,
Mm-hmm.
because it's spread in the
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile. So, and I don't have nothing against CIA. This is just, I'm having the acquaintances everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
even friends. So, people just do their jobs, their daily bread. Okay, so, they were trying to arrest him, at the airport, but they, finally reached the territory. So they entered the airplane. So they, you know, flew away, left Japan, and they've chosen Denmark to, to iterate, to land, temporarily. So after a brief break, they went straight to Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how Johnny B, a great friend of mine, has saved Bobby Fischer's life. So as American citizens, as chess players, and Johnny B is a great chess player too, although he says that he's just a good chess player, but he's don't believe him because he's great. I mean, as chess players, you and I, have just had to imagine this story, because it's a fascinating story.
It is, yeah.
Sounds like a thriller. It can be easily transformed and translated into a movie.
And did Bobby spend the rest of his life in Iceland? Did he?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Nowadays, after Bobby's departure from this realm, and I think it was January 15 or 17, 2008, I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and I remember that day.
Mm-hmm.
So, when he passed away. So you have a small chapel in Reykjavik, in a small cemetery over there, meant for the burials of the Icelandic, citizens. So it's worthy of mentioning that the situation when Garry Kasparov, who was born in Baku in Soviet Union, uh, you know, has visited Iceland for the first time, he went there to Bobby Fischer's, grave, to went to the graveyard to see his tomb and to bow or something, because they've, as well as I've heard, they've never really met each other. They didn't even play not a single match against each other.
Wow.
So it was kind of a sad story.
Mm-hmm.
But this YouTube show is meant to open up the eyes of the individuals, the people who want their eyes to be open. I mean, because it speaks about what previously was considered impossible. Why am I saying this?
Peter, when? Oh,
Because,
go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna ask them. When did Bobby's legal problems begin? Didn't they begin in like the early '70s, where he started getting in trouble with the law? When did it happen? When did he start getting into these legal entanglements with various world governments? It was, yeah, because my memories of him, I remember seeing him on Dick Cavett, doing the little puzzles on the Dick Cavett show and Johnny Carson, and after like the maybe early '70s, I mean, that's pretty much where I quit seeing him making too many public opinions after the early '70s.
yeah, you're probably mentioning the, what was the name of the first host that you mentioned?
Dick Cavett. He was on Dick Cavett.
Yeah, you're mentioning probably the Dick Cavett's, the situation where Bobby, as a host, was solving the Ernie Rubik's
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, cube. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
bullshit. Not comb, but cube. And I was just. My wife was just combing my hair, half an hour ago. So I'm not comb, but the cube. No, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Bullshit. My bad. So he was resolving the Rubik's cube problem,
Mm-hmm.
and the Dick Cavett show. So it was a young dude in that.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
6.2 or 6.3 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
and it was a very, thin guy in that moment, but, it was a very smart one. So America was admiring him, as a genius in those times. But you remember, I'm not
And he had
speaking nothing.
he had great stage presence too. He really had great stage presence. I mean, very, very
Definitely.
charming. It was like a movie star. Yeah.
Yeah, since he was a rock star as well,
Yeah.
or a movie star,
Yeah.
yeah. And one of my friends, who's a U.S. citizen as well, said once, "Oh, okay, I was a chess player, and his name was Bobby Fischer, but he could easily be messed up with Bobby De Niro
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because he was a handsome guy."
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, you said the great stage persona. And nevertheless, his IQ, as well as I am informed, was, estimating like, around 190.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that doesn't
So
surprise me at all. Yeah. Most in
yeah,
all likelihood.
mine official one is around 160. I guess is worth of mentioning for our audience to,
Mm-hmm.
get a little bit more acquainted
Mm-hmm.
with us.
Mm-hmm.
Although it doesn't have to mean nothing really, because it's not a guarantee that you're going to succeed, in life, wherever success was supposed to mean anyway.
Now,
But
Peter,
luckily,
before I interrupted you, just to get back, because I was talking, I wanted to, before I lost my train of thought with the Bobby Fischer and the TV appearances, you were talking about how he and Gary Kasparov never had the opportunity to play even like an exhibition match, let alone a competitive match. So that's kind of where we were in the thread of the story.
yep, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a storyline that we have to follow. So yeah, you have that small chapel, as I said,
Mm-hmm.
over there. So between you and me, I'm also considering, switching the location and going towards Iceland someday. And not as an asylum seeker, because I really don't need it. But it's a whole lot of different standard. It's incomparably much better than the U.S. are now. I mean,
Oh,
I
as
mean,
far as there's like civil liberties, their freedom of speech,
well,
quality of
yeah,
life.
and even
What all were
yeah,
we?
even I mean, you and I don't have to deal with the probably we don't have to deal with what's called the daily salaries or something, because we sell on Amazon, and I have my own business, you have your own business as well. So but speaking about the people who would like to consider it as an opportunity, it's a very good idea to settle down over there, because the salaries, the wages are better, and the life standard in totality is better than the U.S. life standard of now. And there is no so much unemployed people,
Mhm.
and probably in certain cases people are much happier. I cannot be a judge,
And
because I haven't been to Iceland yet. But
they probably don't have to worry about communists busing immigrants into their country up in Iceland either. So they have more of a homogeneous society. They don't people aren't.
oh
It's not
yeah,
like I mean they don't have the communists aren't trying to transform their demographics either, and they have a much smaller population too. So I guess it makes it easier, less problems up there. But yeah.
yeah, certainly bigger amount of sheep than humans, I suppose.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like New Zealand or
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm joking. I'm not
No, I
sure
hear you.
about this last one, but
I wasn't joking about the communists and the immigrants, but yeah, I hear you.
well, America's complaint against communists and communism was a joke, and many were easily deceived. I mean, you and I are not, but the whole lot of fraud with chasing communists and banning them, and the witch hunt that was happening in the U.S. was a fraud, because the U.S. was supporting and providing
Mhm.
communists,
Oh yeah,
and
no doubt about it. Yeah, they're
supporting
all in bed
their.
together. Ultimately, there were no borders. Ultimately, they're all playing for the same team. It's you
Oh
have a
yeah,
small, less than 1% elite no, they're not even elite, but I mean but you have but you have less than 1%, a fraction of 1% of the people, lording it over the rest of us. And that's what's, there are no borders at that level. They're all in bed with each other. I mean,
Oh yeah,
Churchill,
that's sure.
FDR, Stalin. I mean, they were all circle jerking each other, clinking champagne glasses. I mean, they were all together. They were all in it together. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like that fraud regarding hanging Saddam Hussein's body. So I was asking the people around me, did you ever see the cadaver, the dead body of Saddam Hussein?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talked about that in Ruben's show,
Mm-hmm.
in our show that we've got. So
Mm-hmm.
they said no. And I said I didn't either.
Yeah.
So I've seen a man that was hung up over there, but I didn't see any real Saddam Hussein
Same thing with
because
Osama. Same thing with Osama bin Laden. Did anyone see
oh
the body?
yeah,
No, of course not.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Osama bin Laden because the reason is simple. The you know the potential. Speaking about the intelligence services, and I didn't know those things very well. The potential that you were investing in, you don't destroy.
Mm-hmm.
You preserve it in order to keep it up for further collaborations. He has to work with and for you. Period. So it's the same situation with the former Yugoslav president Slobodan Milosevic, whose funeral was a directed TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has ever seen the carcass. The cadaver and the dead body, the dead body, and the deceased. Inside a coffin,
Mm-hmm.
and neither was it open. So when you go to a funeral of a person, when a person dies, you have to face what? An open, coffin,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So this time it was closed. Why it was closed? Because there wasn't a dead body inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this story could be a continuation of what I previously wanted to see. I mean, I'm not blaming America for nothing. I mean, I understand that America made me who I really am. Really, I mean, I was attending college in the U.S. and I was self-educating myself plus.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have any compliance, nothing against the U.S. I understand the whole system of functioning,
Mm-hmm.
the inner structure of the U.S. Really, I do.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is that the things are just going on their own ways,
Mm-hmm.
as they have to be until we figure out some better systems for anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to say that uh, you know uh, oppressing Bobby and the whole thing against him, the whole trial and chasing him like a rabbit,
Mm-hmm.
was the same situation that the already mentioned about America, uh, how she deals with the prominent artists after the king is naked.
Yeah, and Bobby Fischer, he typifies what happens to any individual when they challenge, the existing power structure. Is that they are every effort is made to eliminate them. Is to just absolutely bring the hammer down on them. Any dissent. I mean, and he was. I mean, the great point. I mean, he wasn't a violent man. He wasn't threatened. He wasn't threatening violence to the United States or anyone. I mean, all he said was, "I wanted to play chess in defiance of whatever bullshit is going on between the U.S. government and other various governments." He said, "I don't care. I'm going to play chess. Fuck you. I'm going to play chess." And just by doing that, look what happened to him. I mean, he was made pariah number one. We are going to, destroy this man.
Yeah, and even that, yeah,
For not being a good little boy and
yeah.
falling, for not being a good little boy and falling in line, we're going to destroy this man.
Yeah, because he was a chess player, not a
Yeah.
politician.
No.
And that's
No.
why he refused, yeah, to interfere into politics. He said, I want to play chess. But before it would destroy him, they said, let's announce him officially insane. Let's
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
proclaim him
Hmm.
a lunatic.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Character assassination first. Yeah. We have to
oh
completely
yeah.
destroy his character. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything.
let's announce him mentally unstable
Hmm.
and mentally sick.
Hmm.
You know, so and let's
Because after all, we're doing this under the auspices of self-righteousness. So we have to again
oh
continue
yeah,
the
we have
whole
to
process
stand
of
up
this
for what's
character
right.
assassination.
And
Yeah.
like Bono said at the well the attending of the Live 8, we're not looking for charity, we're looking for justice. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
we have to therefore we have to hold the torch of justice, no matter how silly this can sound nowadays. But somebody has to
Hmm.
stand up for what's right. You know, get up,
Yeah.
stand up for your right. Ah, ooh,
From the
that's
peanut
a whole
gallery.
lot. That's a whole lot of. That's a whole lot different
Yeah.
from
But I mean,
what I
I guess
really
what I'm saying, to
said.
reiterate what I'm saying, is that we see Bobby Fischer is the perfect example of what happens to an individual when they stand up in public dissent against the existing power structure, that being, the United States federal government, usually. And this is what happens to him, you know? Bobby Fischer's like the story that you told today is what happens to people when they stand up against the federal government.
Oh yeah, when they dare to
How
cross the
dare you?
line and
Yeah.
to stand against,
Yeah.
when they got enough balls to do that.
And to your point too, there was nothing political. He wasn't a politician. I mean, Bobby Fischer, for all intents and purposes, was apolitical. I mean, obviously he expressed anti-communist sentiments, which any reasonable person would agree with. But other than that, he was just he was a chess player, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to exercise his art form. That's what he wanted to do. And for that, the United States government destroyed his life.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and he was a victim of the two structures of power which have imposed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The state and the church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the religion, the organized religion, because
Mm-hmm.
later on he had become a victim of the religious, neurosis, of the neurotic behavior. Because, previously, although being a Jew, descending from a Jewish lineage, from his mother's side, of course, he wasn't too much religious, speaking about the organized religion. So he was announcing himself an agnostic or something. Not strictly an atheist, but he wasn't going to any church or something, or a synagogue or a mosque. But later on, after he crossed his 45th year or 50th maybe or something, he went into a religious neurotic behavior, because after 50 we're slowly but surely approaching that age, which I
Hey,
which
it
I
it
hate.
happened to Bob Dylan in the late '70s. He found
Oh,
he found Christianity in the late '70s. Bob Dylan. So
really?
it happens to the best of them.
Well, yeah, I didn't have Bob Dylan.
You gotta serve somebody. You gotta serve somebody. That was Bob Dylan around like 79, 1980. But yeah.
Really? Yeah. Thank you for it's worth you mentioning. Thank you for saying me that, because it may happen to later Nobel Prize winners, no matter
Yeah.
why
It even happened to you and I.
earn the Nobel Prize for it. It can even happen to you and
It could
I.
happen to
Yeah.
you and I too. Yeah.
But after certain experiences, I doubt that.
I doubt it too.
happened to me.
I do too. Yeah.
Because this TV show is not, was not meant to deny the existence of the creative force standing
No,
behind.
no,
the
but I mean,
veil of the curtain,
we
but
take
just to,
a more nuanced approach to it.
oh yeah,
We go beyond the idea of falling to your knees in subservience for all of eternity. I mean,
yeah, to put it
crying out loud, we have to get
otherworldly,
beyond that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, to put it under otherworldly. Let's say this TV show the YouTube show has one of the purposes to bust up the asses of the organized religion.
Yes, please. I mean, we have
In
to
a
we
way.
have to be a little more nuanced than what I just described. I mean, for how long do we have to massage this infinite eternal being's ego? I say, come on, let's move on. We're beyond this. Yes.
Yeah, and it's never, to whom it's never enough.
No, it's never enough. No, no. His only response is more, more.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was attending a mass. I mean, I was just invited. I didn't go there because I wanted, but it just somehow happened that I ended up in the church. So, you know, which I have nothing against. They also do their jobs. They
Mhm.
do the best they can. So I was seeing, a vivid, large crowd, a bunch of people around, maybe probably 70 up to 80, individuals out of them. So they were kneeling down, and then they were, standing or kneeling on their knees, and it wasn't even enough. So they have, you know, put their foreheads onto the ceiling, and they were pressing the ceiling by their foreheads over there, because the kneeling wasn't enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whole a lot of happening was happening in a cloud of incense.
I mean, the
Was
next thing, Peter,
sprawling
they have
around.
to give them each like a blanket so they can crawl on their bellies too. I mean, right, right. Like we said, it's just never enough, right? Right. I know. I mean, I don't know. I hate to be this condescending, but hey, I have it in me sometimes. But right, I mean, it gets to a point where it's just ridiculous. It's just beyond
You know,
ridiculous.
this is a perfect moment to say this. If
Yeah.
I was a god, let's say maybe I am, but I'm not gonna go bragging around with it. So if I was a god, the superb being, at least for this solar system, or at least for this planet that we're momentarily stuck in, I wouldn't ruminate about the thought that those kneelings were the utmost capabilities of the most, the biggest and most beautiful being with greatest potential that I've ever created. I wouldn't even think about the possibility that the best that those beings can do in order to praise me was them kneeling and pressing the ceiling with their foreheads. So I would be the first who would take a step.
I would be lifting them up and encouraging them and putting winds in their sails for them to be as
Yeah,
much as they
I would beat them up. I would beat them up by a stick.
No, I wouldn't be this eternal, correctional officer.
Yeah, I always said, stop kneeling anymore. Don't do that.
Yeah, for crying out loud, get up. Yeah.
Yes.
To use the great illustration from David Icke's book, human race, get off your knees. The lion sleeps no more. And one of these days, David's going to call me. The fucker won't call me back right now, but one of these days he's going to. But no, yeah, I mean, it's time to get off our knees. Yeah.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. So the lion is not sleeping.
No, the
anymore.
lion needs to wake up
That's
from its slumber. Yeah. Yeah.
I hope we're not gonna get charged, officially by using the by.
You're right. We have to get permission. We haven't gotten permission from.
No,
Did Harry Belafonte?
I'm not gonna be charged by Billy Joel for using his composition.
Oh, I thought it was Harry Belafonte, but I'm thinking daylight coming. I want to go. Yeah, I get. But yeah.
So you think that it was covering Belafonte's
I thought it was
original
very
composition?
Belafonte. I thought it was, but I could be wrong. I'd have to do my homework. I'd
Yeah,
have to
and
consult Alexa.
since Harry is still alive,
He's got to be like
living in
120 by now.
New
Yeah.
York City, where he was born, 1927. Correct me if I'm wrong. We have to call him up,
Call him up.
call his
Yeah.
agent and management in order to figure it out where we are permitted to use it or not. I'm
And
joking.
we want to make sure he feels comfortable being associated with our channel too. We don't want to. Yeah.
But I know the guy who definitely is
Who's that?
delighted and honored by being mentioned often. And you know who's the guy's name? What's the guy's name? That it's David Icke.
Yeah. Yes.
It's one of the most challenging guys over here because he has dedicated his life, to change the current paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
To change the opinions of people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why his very frequently mentioned over here because it's worthy of. And I told you in one of our previous shows that I have a contact with him, the email. So probably we can write an email to him in order to, maybe
I exchanged emails with his son. Yeah,
Oh
but
yeah, you told
I
me.
kind of just lost contact with him. But he did get a copy of my book. I know a physical copy of my book arrived safely in England, so it's in his possession. I'm sure it's collecting dust somewhere. Maybe he's using it as like I don't know, but it's
On the
collecting dust somewhere
bookshelf.
in his house. Yeah,
On the bookshelf.
Yeah, it's collecting dust somewhere over there in England.
Oh yeah, I've seen that copy in German as well. But why not to invite him to our show?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, yeah, I'd love to have him on.
Why not to include him to the list of our further guests?
Yeah, you're speaking to the choir here. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it will be worthy of because
Mhm.
it's as a great person he became in the meanwhile.
Mhm.
So why not to invite him to our show, included with our future members that
Mhm.
we're gonna include to participate as well.
Mhm.
Because David has done many of the great things, especially in those books, such like the already mentioned one that you were holding in your arms and in your hands, and the most probably the most beloved one by the audience, which is entitled the biggest secret.
I have that one downstairs on my bookshelf.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So
Children of the
it's
Matrix. Yeah, a bunch of them. The
yeah, the
Trigger.
children of the
Yeah.
Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Keanu Charles Reeves would like that.
Oh, I've heard that he's awake though. I've heard that Keanu Reeves is awake to the global conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. I mean, he should. I mean, you look at his filmography. I mean, he should by now. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Those are the great esoteric movies. I mean, not each one of them, but
Mhm.
many of them. I mean,
Devil's
really.
Advocate. That was a great one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But,
1997. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And I like that sentence that can be taken almost as a proverb. When Al Pacino had said, I I ain't the one who is pushing people and forcing people to do something bad or wrong. I only I only propose them, and then they decide to do or not to do it.
He's the great tempter.
Oh yeah,
He
the
just
great
puts
tempter.
temptation in their way. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and this Al Pacino is meaning Satan's point in that movie was that God likes watching.
Mhm.
He or it provides you with with an instinct,
Mhm.
and without taking care about whether whether the thirst is quenched or not.
Mhm.
So he likes watching. So that's the point
Mhm.
of the whole story. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so we've witnessed that situation many times over our lifetime. So yeah, that's the point. But you know, yeah. Well, something that my wife is kissing me. So yeah, against the organized religion that certainly can produce the neurotic behavior,
Mhm.
as well we've just mentioned,
Mhm.
in cases of two Bobbies, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you know, uh, we offer alchemy over here because it's our uh, chasing and craving power, because it's our overtaking the power in our own hands, because the utmost point of the whole thing is that human beings are gods.
We are, yes.
We
Well,
have to be
we are vehicles. We are vehicles
the
for
vehicles.
experience by
Yeah,
which infinite eternal consciousness,
exactly.
the big is, the
Yeah,
big kahuna, God, for lack of a better name, the source is having an experience. I mean, everything here is just, it's just an
yeah,
experience. It's so, the big G isn't sitting up in eternity in heaven, twiddling his thumbs, jerking off on a wall for all of eternity. There has to be variety of experience, and hence the world, ergo the world. I mean, this really is just an experience, and human beings are avatars, like in the James Cameron movie. It's a very real analogy, metaphor for what's going on here. Human beings are just vehicles for experience on the planet, so the universe can have an experience. That's all it is. I mean, that really is all it is. I mean, there's no deeper meaning or purpose to it. I mean, we are here we are here as the universe having an experience. That's what we are. So we are
oh
gods. I
yeah,
mean, before you were reticent to call yourself a god, and I didn't want to interrupt at that moment, but we really are God. We are God. I mean, every person is God, having an experience on the temporal plane of existence. That's what we are. And
yeah.
David Icke,
And
I mean, David Icke he was excoriated in the early 1990s for calling himself a son of God. But
a
but
son of God. Yeah,
but with a moment's pause and reflection, if people cared to hear him out, he would have explained that we are all, sons and daughters of God. I mean, he wasn't giving himself this exclusive honorific. I mean, this is something that we all
yeah,
have if we pause and think about it. I mean, that's what we are. We are God having an experience.
yeah. Mostly, many of the so-called celebrities would go out on stage claiming that he or she is a son of a bitch, but he was a
Yeah.
decent guy, and he stated that he himself was a son of God. Because he was a irrational man. I mean,
Hmm.
a rational man,
Yes.
and yeah. So you know, it sounds like the cliche, but in this is an era. This is the era of the awakening, or reawakening, because before this, we were having the civilization of Atlantis. So we're repeating the technological momentum of huge, huge the techno discoveries. So this is practically the subject of our book, The Mythologies of Techno World, the last one for now. So we are living in a great explosion of knowledge, of technology. So it's strictly impossible to hold on to the skirts of the old, mother church and the old religions, because they don't suit
Hmm.
the basic needs of the human animal.
Hmm.
I mean, this is a post-Christian era, whether we wanted to admit it or not. I mean, I don't have nothing against Christianity neither. I don't have nothing against anybody. The
Yeah.
things I'm repeating,
Hmm.
the things are just going on their ways. You know, each one of those stages is just a stage within the line of the evolution. You know, so even there's we're certainly come up to the moment where the religion itself will become redundant.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
And
we're there.
I'm not talking about the exclusive with the Christianity or the
Hmm.
Christendom. You know, I'm talking about the Islamic
Hmm.
uh, theology as well, because you in okay, let's not say in capitalism, because it's over with the old surviving remnants of the capitalism, you know, the liberal capitalism. It's you know, it's over, but you cannot make yourself a luxury to kneel down 5 times a day, you know, turning your face, you know, against the east, and
Hmm.
to do a prayer. I'm having a lot of Muslim friends. Most of them live on the Caucasus, you know,
Hmm.
the so-called Muslim friends, because it's like a mental program, and you call yourself either a Christian or a Muslim or a you know, Hindu believer, or a Baha'ism believer, you know, the Al-Bab religion. And I was researching the history of religion. So I have concluded, I came to the conclusion that there is the mind, there is the consciousness, you know, which is deeply rooted in deeply the one with the creation,
Hmm.
although it still remains incomprehensible. So my conclusion after researching, you know, the history of religion, uh, reading books like Mircea Eliade, you know, the Romanian historian of religion and anthropologist, and books like that, you know, while I was living in the U.S. So I have concluded, I came up to the conclusion that there is the mind, and that emanates, that emerges like that primordial clear light.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to have a name, because it spoils everything. You know,
Hmm.
whether I call it God or Allah, you know, or even Atman, you know, in each of the way that you possibly call it, you know, it spoils the
Yeah, I
situation
mean, to
because it
define
produces
something puts a
warfare.
yeah, to define something puts a limit on it, and there's no limit on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you put the thing inside a semiotic frame,
Hmm.
and you in an attempt, in an unfertile attempt to describe that by words,
Hmm.
you get lost.
Yeah.
So anyone does. So it's better not to call it anything but the consciousness, as we
Hmm.
previously
Yeah,
concluded.
I call it consciousness, infinite eternal
You called
consciousness,
it consciousness. You
infinite,
called it
infinite,
consciousness in your
eternal.
book.
Yeah,
In your
infinite,
book.
eternal consciousness, and that's pretty much the. I try and get into that, like in the very first page is what I'm talking about, like my pitch and my mission statement or thesis statement for my book is that I call this thing, this entity, infinite eternal consciousness. That's my definition for the universe.
Yeah,
Is
inside your book.
inside my book.
Inside your
Yes.
book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've also concluded that we can make the cognition about even about the ultimate, the tiniest parts and things within the creation, but the essence of the very, I'm not saying creator, because it's sexless, it's
Hmm.
genderless.
Hmm.
Uh, that the essence, the core of the very consciousness standing behind the project, because that's where it is as an experiment, that would remain, and that has to remain incomprehensible for
Hmm.
good. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, maybe not when we in the moment when the particular individual consciousness has separated from the biosystem and entered the totality of the wavelength,
Hmm.
you know, because it's just as we've said previously, it's just a tiny we observe, it's just a tiny range,
Hmm.
estimating from 0.3 way up to 0.9. I think
I
it's
thought
just
I thought even visible light was
area.
0.005% of
Oh
what's
yeah,
out there. Yeah. So we are experiencing an infinitesimal percentage of perception of what's
yeah.
really
The
there.
totality of the
Yeah, the
wide,
totality of it,
wavelength.
it's like you can't. It's almost immeasurable how small. For all intents and purposes, we are blind. I mean, what we are able to perceive with invisible light renders us blind by it. I mean, we're practically blind to what's truly there. What's all there.
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
why I have interviewed some people who have given a try to ayahuasca. La ayahuasca.
Hmm.
The herbal goddess from the interior of the jungle, the Amazon jungle, and we both are fishing in the same river of the Amazon, right? So we have to be familiarized with this. We fish in the Amazon River. I mean, selling our books in the Amazon. So
Hmm.
and and
Hmm.
and ayahuasca is as a dweller of the Amazon jungle. So before I have tried the plant for the first time, I was doing a little research of mine, and later on it came up as a deeper and much profound research. So I have realized that you know, and later on when I took it first time, I realized that the reality that uh, you get familiarized with after taking the plant and the herbal juice inside your body has changed, and it's not slightly different. It's a whole lot different reality. So you start questioning yourself. So war is going on. Am I in a strange movie? What's happening to my mind? Am I lost, or am I stoned or something? So if the whole process is properly conducted, you've got you receive the information from the guide, from the shaman or shaman, who says, so well, that's the reality. The things that you're perceiving right now are the reality, although you weren't fully aware of that before taking the plant, right?
Hmm.
So you start seeing there are several levels of perception and seeing things, but you start seeing the elemental beings, for example. So this is why I mentioned this, because you just said that it's a tiny range of it's tiny diapason of the visible
Hmm.
visual light, and after taking the ayahuasca juice, the dead man's root, as it's popularly called, uh, you suddenly, after half an hour or 15 minutes, you start seeing the things in a different way. So you start seeing the elemental beings,
I've
like
seen these on LSD, Peter. What you're describing with the ayahuasca, I've had an almost identical experience taking LSD, particularly
oh
for the
yeah,
first time. I took 3 hits of LSD the first time I took it, and I was seeing these elemental beings, and I was even communicating with the trees. I mean, just
oh
watching
yeah,
watching the
communicating with the
breeze, watching a
trees.
breeze pass through a grassy field. I mean, I was having a conscious connection with the consciousness of the grass and the trees and everything. Yeah. I was seeing balls of electricity rolling back and forth. I was on a mountainside in Hawaii, at 1,200 feet elevation, and to the side of the farm where I was staying at was a wide green pasture with cows, browsing the fields, and I was seeing balls of electricity passing back and forth between the cows and the trees and me and everything that was alive. I was seeing these balls of electricity going back and forth, and these balls of electricity were imbued with consciousness as well. I mean, I was I was communicating to them with my heart and my consciousness with them as well. And
And
it's
you
my
were,
pet theory, and I have no nothing scientific to back this up, but it's my belief that that these psychoactive plants and property, and like for example LSD isn't a plant, but I mean ayahuasca obviously is, but I think that the psychoactive properties are turning on what is otherwise classified as junk DNA. I mean, they say that 97% of our DNA is just lying there dormant. It's not doing any purposeful function. Whereas I believe that the psychoactive properties are actually turning on a lot of this junk, that a lot of this DNA that is normally, laying dormant in our brains, or in our cells, in our very being. I think the DNA is lighting up too. And how do you feel, what are your thoughts on that? Have you ever had a connection with that, to the DNA,
oh
with other
yeah, the
with other parts
DNA's,
of our DNA
yeah.
being turned on by the psychoactive property of these plants? And yeah.
Sure, the DNA structure, the whole lot of chains of DNA are kind of changing,
Hmm.
and they're certainly getting a higher potential
Yeah.
by vibratory level.
Hmm.
So yeah, you were kind of where you were while you were explaining and describing your first three LSD experiences. You were kind of drowned in the electrical, illumination and lightning events around. It was pulsating. It's the
Hmm.
same with me.
Hmm.
My
Hmm.
experience, it was pulsating, and like you were perceiving the intelligence of the electricity.
Hmm. Yes. Oh
It's
yeah.
something that is similar to what Tesla has described in his Colorado
I
Springs
was just going to mention
experiment.
that too. I mean, I think your ayahuasca experience and my LSD experience opened us to allowed us to see and interact with that energy field that Tesla found in Colorado Springs. I think it's the
Yeah.
very same thing that he was interacting with.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's the moment which I will never forget when he was describing, when he said in the Colorado Springs Diary from 1899 that I've read for dozens of times, of course. And he said, I was even having the edition with the facsimile of his manuscript, So he said, I'll never forget the day when I have discovered the signs of intelligence and the electric current.
Hmm.
So, and whilst you were mentioning the LSD experience, I have to remind ourselves and the audience that there is almost the same explanation, the same, the, you know, the same kind of descriptive storyline between Tesla's uh, experiences and before he was going to sleep, which is described in his other bio book, my inventions, and all those Huxley's, depiction and explanation of his first LSD trip,
Hmm.
meaning whenever I quote, I cite over here, whenever I want to go to sleep, I first see two lines of the blue thin uh, spots, which later on become closer to my eyes and hence bigger. So later on, the whole background, which is black, is sprinkled and covered up by the tiny dots, the tiny spots of the white light. So later on, those two previous spots start to spark and to get illuminated, and so the background becomes to shine in a glow of greenish and bluish strong light. So this is the background of Tesla's inner biopic cinematic screen, which was the background for the eidetic images that he was receiving and downloading, and he was later on developing consciously. So I am ending the quote by saying each time when the situation is just described, when the spots are transforming into images, and whatever they do, I am certain that I will soon lose my consciousness and get into the sleep condition. But each time, whatever they don't, or whenever they refuse to reappear, I am convinced that I will spend a sleepless night. So the description that I just provided over here from the Tesla's book, My Inventions, is practically the same kind of an experience described in Aldous Huxley's book named The Doors of Perception, and later on, followed, accompanied by the appendix, Heaven and Hell, which of course has been named after Emanuel Swedenborg's work entitled the same. Probably the first book that you get acquainted with.
I was thinking from
researching Swedenborg.
William Blake as well. William Blake as well.
But the whole thing has come from Emanuel Swedenborg's work. So it's a whole lot of different storyline, although it's deeply connected with what we are talking here. We're covering various esoteric subjects like gematria, theurgical, things, even the theology, the philosophy in wide, spread areas, and the occultism, the occult practices, the alchemy. So the topic of Emanuel Swedenborg can be covered in one of our further shows, that's for sure, because we have a whole lot of different bunch of various artists and scientists who were deeply involved into and influenced by Swedenborg's deed. So, and William Blake is just one of them. Later on, Aldous Huxley. And since we deal with music and I sing as well, so it's worth you mentioning.
You're right, because Blake expressed he credits Swedenborg for a lot of his ideas, or at least Swedenborg was the launching pad by which a lot of his ideas took their full bloom. I mean, he came from he's a direct descendant of Swedenborg.
Yeah, that's
he makes numerous references to Swedenborg in like the notes, his personal annotations to his notes, to his poetry. I mean, you'll always find him mentioning Swedenborg to any preface to a larger body of his work. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and it's worth you mentioning because music is probably the greatest arithmetics and the greatest alchemy. One of the greatest for sure. And we always deal with music somehow in our show. It's worth it mentioning that Jim Morrison was deeply influenced by William Blake, who was a descendant of Swedenborg's. When he has given the name to the newly formed band, The Doors, after reading Aldous Huxley's book, The Doors of Perception.
It says once the doors of perception are cleansed, everything will appear as it is, infinite. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What a beautiful, what a line.
Clean, clear, yes, sir, definitely. That was the primary quote that has inspired him as a spark when he was choosing the name, because it was difficult to give the band the name because Ray Manzarek was a classically trained piano player,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, who was attending the high school for classical music, and Jim was a great singer as well, a great baritone singer. I'm sure that the majority of our co-patriots are fully aware of it. I mean, at least people of our age and older,
Mm-hmm.
and even some younger ones, because we're getting off to you know re-listen to the vinyl records and the LPs, and I'm very proud to have the renaissance of the vinyl records and CDs as well. So and Jim was a holder of the great baritone voice, and it was named the rock and roll and blues Sinatra. You know, and this is the way how I was experiencing him. So and that was the guy named Robbie Krieger, and the another guy, of course.
John Densmore.
Yeah, dance more. So they've formed the band, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So and the people who are into the esoteric stuff would recognize that there is a strong and huge influence by Emanuel Swedenborg, by Willem Blake, coming up to Jim Morrison's lyrics, and it was a poet, very close to Count Lautréamont, Le Chant de Maldoror, the chants of Maldoror, which later on deeply influenced Edgar Allan Poe and Charles Baudelaire,
Mm-hmm.
and in France as well. So Jim Morrison was kind of I'm not claiming that he was a reincarnation of, but he was a sort of the repeated young Comte de Lautréamont of the United States,
Mm-hmm.
because he was a poet. And I have received several information from the reliable sources that Jim Morrison is, namely still alive, that he is living in the countryside in the state of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually seen him, not in person, but I've seen the YouTube clip recently that has been sent to me.
I'd love to see that, and I'm familiar with this story, Peter, too, because again, his body. I don't think it was a closed casket, right? I mean, it was a very they rushed the whole process of getting him buried, and no one really saw him after he died, too. I mean, under very very similar mysterious conditions as Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden and probably JFK Jr. I mean, I've heard the same stories with JFK Jr. that he's alive and well, but no, I'm familiar with the Morrison story, and hey, it wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't.
Yeah, and even I'm not claiming nothing here, but even I was hearing often about Gaddafi mentioned inside, because the real Gaddafi was having a small tattoo behind his ear,
Mm-hmm.
over here,
Mm-hmm.
depicted and applied in the tissue behind the ear. So the allegedly killed person did not have.
Yeah.
So if you notice the elementary thing that is common to all of the alleged rock and roll personalities, assassinations or suicides, they all practically die in their bathroom. Elvis died while defecating or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
allegedly from a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Although it hasn't been confirmed by an autopsy or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly and supposedly after taking a large portion, a large dose, meaning the OD or something, and then the heart attack was caused by that, officially, although it's a lie. And Jim Morrison had died in his bathtub.
Mhm.
Yeah, bathtub. Yeah, of course. Although nobody hasn't seen the carcass. So
And
yeah.
Peter, how about all these celebrities that are found hanging from a doorknob? They hung themselves, 3 feet off the ground. I mean, that presents a lot of challenges, right? I mean, you hang yourself from a doorknob 3 feet off the ground. I mean, how does that happen, right? I mean, Michael, not Michael Hutchins, but I mean, how many, like Anthony Bourdain and Robin Williams? I think Chris Cornell died hanging from a
And
doorknob.
Chester Bennington, sir,
Chester
as well.
Bennington, yes. I mean, how many of these, how many of these, especially singers, musicians, have died hanging from a doorknob, excuse me. Yeah.
Well, I've heard that manner of committing suicide is widely popular amongst the inmates in jails. Although it remained totally unclear to my mind, how is that possible for you or anybody to hang up himself, on that such a small altitude. It's really impossible to do.
Yeah, it's code. It's a code word for a government hit.
Oh yeah.
It's just so we're clear for you and me and our audience. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And there are various kind of stories involved. Starting from the alleged Chris Cornell's drug abuse, before and after the last show. I've seen that show, by the way.
And he wasn't. I mean, from what I heard, that he wasn't suicidal leading up to that. I mean,
No,
no.
sure he wasn't. Even his second wife, who
Yeah.
is Greek, by the way, of course,
Mhm.
she claimed and stated in the Supreme Court that there was nothing suicidal about him. It was a sane person. He was stable and solid, and he was willing to live because he was doing very well. The business was rolling on, and he wanted to pursue, to continue his life. And of course, the story of Chester Bennington, who I love and admire a lot, and is a whole lot different one, because that story of a child rape and abuse and sexual abusal and harassment over his childhood. We've discovered that John Podesta, the Pizzagate founder and the director, was and still is his father, because when you put the photographs of the two of them,
oh, no kidding,
right next to each other, they look like a spitting image of each other, right?
Kind of like Fidel. You ever hear the same thing with Fidel Castro and Justin Trudeau? Have you seen that one? Have you seen the one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's the spitting image of Castro.
Oh yeah, probably, yeah, probably. And there's a whole bunch of stories like that, and that's maybe one for some of our later shows that will occur soon. And there are people and there are techniques that can simply or less or simply erase the bad engrams, the memories of those rapings and sexual abuse over the childhood, while the infant is still impossible to self-defend. And because we've concluded previously that whenever a seeker in a particular consciousness incarnates, whenever one has chosen the uterus to go through, and to enter the life through, it opens up for a certain amount of pain and suffer. And that's worthy for a whale, a human being, or a bird, or anybody else. At least in this realm.
Yeah.
Because probably maybe the other realms, some of them, are deprived of the possibility to strongly suffer. Some are, but some aren't. Maybe there are the realms which are living hell. But this one is very good, although it does contain certain elements of hell.
Well, Philip K. Dick said something akin to that effect. He said that if you think this world is bad, you should see some of the other worlds.
Oh yeah,
Philip K.
yeah.
Dick.
It's
Yeah.
worthy.
Oh yeah.
It's worthy of repeating.
Yeah, he said, if
Uh,
you think this world is bad, you should see some of the other worlds. Philip K. Dick, obviously the esteemed
yeah, and he
sci-fi
should
writer.
know what he was
Yeah,
talking
he
about
knows what he was talking about. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what it said.
because he was also having experiences with the consciousness
I mean,
altering
yeah.
substances, and he
I mean
was an
that right there,
esoteric.
Peter, that right there is enough to scare me to the quick of my being. I mean, I'm like, because when that comes from someone like Philip K. Dick, I tend to trust. Yeah, he's anything. If he's anything, he is authentic. He is honest, and he knows what he's talking about. And that experience he had with the girl and the necklace when he saw the girl, was it like a Jesus? It was the fish necklace, and the light hit the sun. That we're talking about that story that led to his exegesis when he maybe one of his earliest breakdowns in 1973 or 74 when he saw the light beam that, well, it was like a delivery girl came to his door, delivered some package, and a light, either the sun or the light hit her necklace, and this necklace, the beam coming off her necklace hit him, and within this beam of light, it really ties into what we're talking about. That the beam of light was imbued with intelligence and information, and what he ultimately called Valis, this vast, active, living information system, which I know that you're well familiar with, but I bring that up for our audience. But no, he when someone like Philip K. Dick says that there are other worlds out there that make this one look like an everyday picnic, it scares the living bejesus out of you. It can.
Oh yeah, I mean, although I probably know the answer, what was your and where is your what would be your favorite Philip K. Dick's novel? Is that Ubik or
Ubik,
Duty?
probably Ubik. Yeah,
Ubik,
I love Ubik. Yeah, yeah. The
Duty,
transmigration of Timothy Archer. Yeah,
Duty androids dream about the
and Electric
electric
Sheep.
sheep,
Mm-hmm.
which later on has been, of course, turned into a miraculous, fascinating movie regarding the era that has been taped in, and uh, namely the Blade Runner, the original first one, directed by Ridley Scott.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the original music score, the soundtrack was provided by Vangelis. You know,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
an astounding thing to hear. So the whole movie was starring in Harrison Ford and was and the whole story about sexual intercourse between a human main hero and the sexual replicant, the cyborg, was fascinating. You know, really, because this is the era that we are approaching to. You
Mm-hmm.
know, right now. So yeah, and the man in the
Man
high
in the High Castle. Yeah.
castle is great as well. So he was relying on the J.L. Burgess as well. You know, he was relying on his work a lot. You know, because he was
I liked his proletarian novels in the 1950s before he really got into sci-fi, where he kind of like telling these everyday working man, struggling working man stories. For example, he had one novel where a guy was selling typewriters on the road, and how like he bought these typewriters either in Europe or Canada, but nevertheless the keyboard was different than the American keyboard, and he didn't figure this out until after he bought all these typewriters, and then he had to go back and manually change the keyboard to make it a standard American typewriter. And then he got into all these convoluted problems traveling and trying to sell these typewriters. But he wrote like maybe 5 or 6 novels of this sort before he got into the sci-fi. And these were books that he wrote in his early 20s, and they were, I mean, just hilarious. I mean, just beautifully done. I mean, he polished and written in his early 20s, and they're just hilarious, well done novels that were before he
oh
got into
yeah.
sci-fi, and no one knows about them really because they weren't published, and they were published posthumously, so no one knew about him until he was long gone. But
Yeah, and those were the first ones
those were the
that
first ones
he
he
has
wrote,
ever
yeah.
written.
And those
Yeah.
were the first ones he wrote, and they kind of sat on the shelf until after he died, and then they kind of took on a life of their own after he
Before
died.
converting and turning towards the
Sci-fi,
sci-fi field.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But he's one of the greatest sci-fi authors of all
Yeah.
time, that's for
Mhm.
sure. we have to do certain changes in order to produce another Philip K. Dick. That's for
Mhm.
sure. But just I wanna
Oh, and just for me, I
add.
just wanted to clarify my idea. When I was talking about that event when he saw that pink light beam bouncing off the young girl's necklace, that pink light beam was imbued with this vast, active, living information system that permeates all of the universe, and it was this light beam that put him on that course for the exegesis. I mean the whole exposition of understanding the nature of the universe was all precipitated by this pink light beam. And I guess my point was being is that if Philip K. Dick talks about other worlds and the unimaginable hells that some of these other worlds are, it gives me pause. I guess that was a conclusion to my story not too long ago. Is that anytime Philip K. Dick talks about other worlds, other living hells, I tend to believe him. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He has
that's for
credibility.
sure.
He has impeachable credibility in my book. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you mention him in your own book?
I'm sure I have
Because
here and there. Yeah, here and there I
yeah,
have.
you
Yeah.
have. Because I haven't got to that point. I mean, I'm still at the very beginning because there are so many things to do, and I use the fast reading technique. One of them that I mostly use. Although your book has the one which is mentioned for thorough and careful reading process. It can't be just swept away, and you can't slip off from one page to another. You have to get into the
Mm-hmm.
tissue of the book. So you have to read it with you know with attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to add and information, because you were mentioning the alleged self hangings of the music, the rock singers and musicians. Regarding Chester Bennington, I was diving into and doing my private research, searching within his private correspondence, the online correspondence.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got one information that was pretty much clear to me, and it says, okay, I'm having the information that can put the career of Hillary Clinton to the end, period.
Oh,
So
wow.
probably that was the trigger for the later on
Yeah.
events that occurred, because those are the
Yeah,
political murders.
he signed his death warrant on that day.
Oh,
Yeah.
certainly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As a U.S. citizen who was not obviously seeking an asylum in Iceland,
Mm-hmm.
he certainly, signed his own,
His
death
death warrant.
verdict.
Yeah. Yeah. He did.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And regarding Chris Cornell, it can probably be the same. Or the myth, which ain't that, which is deliberate truth, which says that when you work for the entertaining industry, you're much worthy while dead. When
Oh yeah,
you're
you're
still
worth
alive.
more dead than you are alive. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, and in spite of the latest statement, I'm also having some information that can sound some shocking to the vast majority of our listeners, but I'm also sure that a certain percentage of our listeners is also familiar with the same statement. And the statement says that actually it claims that Michael Jackson is also still alive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not reincarnated, but in the same bodily system, that he is hiding under a different name.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he was even attending some of the latest shows in the arenas, across our, great vast country.
Hmm.
the land of the free. And there was a mysterious personality, covered up by sort of a mask.
Hmm.
I mean, not the COVID masks, but it's over. But the real mask and the facial expressions and the shape of the face was a lot, changed and different from what we know as Michael Jackson's. But if you wanna, we can do a little bit deeper research for some of our upcoming shows.
Hmm.
But I'm convinced. I'm not naive, really. You neither. But really, I mean, sometimes people, by being willing to avoid being naive, they get into a trap of being naive. So they do totally different, from what I previously wanted. So if I say that I claim that Michael Jackson is still alive, that means that I'm not naive.
Hmm.
So I would be deceived and naive if I believed differently. I
People
mean,
take
I'm not
people take
having a problem being by
like
being naive.
the extremes of skepticism, right? Is that what you're? I mean, people get to the where they are just skeptical of everything. Which I mean, everybody needs you need a healthy dose of skepticism, but we can take skepticism to the point where we just dismiss everything that on the face of it sounds extraordinary or just too far out of the ordinary. We just dismiss it as being impossible, out of hand, and we claim that we are clever because we are so skeptical about anything. When it's, I mean, being skeptical can be a shortcut to thinking as well, right? I mean, right? I mean, being skeptical is a shortcut to thinking critically.
Oh yeah, definitely it is because while trying and attempting to do the opposite, I mean, people do exactly what they were afraid of, meaning
Hmm.
to make a logical error.
Yeah.
So they're erroneous by trying not to be.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is why I'm having the information that Jim, Michael Jackson, and Elvis are still alive. And I've also seen that there is a large probability that Tupac is still alive as well.
I've heard the
You know,
same about David
Tupac
Bowie too.
Shakur,
I've heard the same about David Bowie too.
David Bowie, really?
Yeah, I've heard the same about David Bowie too.
Oh, that's really amazing if
Yeah,
it's really that way.
yeah.
I mean, that probably he has done the same, meaning
Hmm.
making a forgery and a
Hmm.
show up on his own death.
I mean,
Because
I think there was some TV presenter. I mean, again, I saw this on YouTube where there was a TV presenter that was the spitting image of David Bowie. I mean,
really,
I'm really being, I mean, it sounds speculative, but I mean, I'm positive. I saw a video not too shortly after David Bowie died. There was a video
yeah,
of a TV presenter who just looked exactly like David Bowie.
yeah, and I guess there is a same personality, the same spirit of the same character of a movie star or a rock star inside of me and you as well. So
Hmm.
we
And when
know,
you mentioned Tupac, Peter,
yeah.
there was a rapper and a rap there was a rapper in some rap group that maybe you know the name of the group, but I've heard many stories of Tupac becoming a member of another rap group. Was it D something? D, not D12, but am I kind of stirring any memories for you with the rap group that Tupac is supposedly a member of?
Well, no, I think
Oh, okay.
Eminem was a member of the D12,
Yeah,
Dirty
I'm
Dozen,
getting my rappers
Dirty
confused. But
Dozen.
I know that I've seen Tupac connected with some rap group from either the late '90s, early 2000s. But
Could
anyway,
that be Notorious B.I.G. Although it's not a rap group, it's an individual.
yeah, I don't know. My knowledge of rap kind of died off about 1993. My knowledge of hip hop is pretty sketchy. But
Yeah, so you're probably most sticking to the high school, the old high school,
Mhm.
East Coast or West Coast
Mhm.
rap, like
Mhm. But again,
Sugar Hill
but
Gang,
I was
Rappers
saying is,
Delight.
to your point with Tupac is that I've heard those same stories of Tupac still being alive. I've I've heard that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's living on Cuba,
Oh, okay.
on the island of Cuba, and the situation when Rihanna was holding a concert in Havana, she took a photograph, she took a picture with him. So
Mhm.
I've seen that picture of Rihanna with Tupac Shakur, and I will
Hmm.
send you the clip
Please
containing
do.
the information. And I would like you to do the same vice versa in reverse and to send me the TV host
David Bowie. Yeah, I will get that. I will look
yeah,
that up. Yeah.
situation starring David Bowie because
Mhm.
uh, essentially being very similar to those characters as the presenters, as the public personalities like you and I are, we are fully aware that they cannot, while still alive, they cannot bear and stand hiding for too long because the let's say the positive narcissism, not the malignant narcissism, but the positive narcissism, the narcissistic persona, which is good, when it's not malicious, it it inclines towards self-expression, right?
Mhm.
So it needs the audience sometimes. So that's a psychological explanation, which is the truth. So they certainly do not stand hiding for too long. Although, in cases of Jim Morrison, and those are not the conspiracy theories, but the practice instead. I'm talking about conspiracy practices and the practice and the reasons standing behind somebody's will to direct his own death and to hide out. In case of Jim Morrison's alleged death, he was hiding for too long, and there were the information and rumors on the internet that the guy uh, was telling, okay, I'm still alive. If you're able to catch me if you can, and he was, you know, signing as Mojo, which
Hmm.
we know that it was
Mojo Riser.
JM. Yeah, JM's, the
Mhm.
nickname.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Great Lizard. So I can send you a clip containing almost an 80-year-old guy uh, living in the countryside of the state of New York, not so far from Cleveland, Ohio,
Mhm.
who was covered up by a large beard, which was with not so unlikely to the all good old Jim in his
Mhm.
best age,
Mhm.
and he was reciting poetry on that occasion, not in French but in English. So that was him. If you take a briefer, if you take a more thorough look upon the person's face and eyes, you will see the same old face
Mhm.
of Jim, although a little bit slightly altered by the shortening of telomeres,
Mhm.
because we've just previously mentioned that the reason for aging is shortening of the telomere, the endings of the DNA helix, right?
Mhm. Please
So
send me
what
that
we,
video. Send me. I'd love to see it. I will send you. I will look up the David Bowie one. That the TV presenter looks
yeah,
like David Bowie. So let's not forget
yeah,
that.
thank you. I certainly will. And Elvis also assumably lived somewhere on Cuba
Mhm.
as well. And when I told it to a friend of mine who's from Long Island originally, he said, "Well, I definitely cannot Even imagine Elvis, Aaron Presley speaking Spanish.
Hmm.
But I said, okay, if he was willing to, he could probably learn it. You know, I was surrounded for 20 years by the Hispano, interlocutors, the speakers of Spanish language, and even two of my previous girlfriends were Mexicans, and I'm talking about myself. So, and later on, I studied the languages. So this is how I do speak Spanish. But let's say, if Elvis allegedly passed away August 17, 1977, which, by the way, is the date when Madonna reached her majority. Nevertheless, last but not least, uh, there's been how many years? It could be 55 years in total. So it's 45 years. It's 45 years of hiding.
Hmm.
So probably he could, or something. So he could learn Spanish over
Hmm.
that period of time.
Hmm.
You know?
Oh yeah, if you're immersed in that culture and that's what and they speak a different language, you're going to learn it. By osmosis, you would learn it.
Oh yeah, and
Right?
I've seen him.
Yeah.
I've seen him in a garden. Walking around wearing a baseball cap and showing up the characteristic Elvis
Hmm.
sign by the index finger and the middle finger. And nevertheless, he wore the Elvis sign written across his back on the large T-shirt, and he was waiting around. I don't know, maybe way up to 285, 290 pounds, maybe even 300 pounds. I am 227, 229.
How tall are you then? How tall are you?
I'm two. I'm in Europe now, so I'm 2 meters in European measures. Exactly 2.00.
Okay, so you're 2 meters. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
I'll
6
do the
points.
not the
The
translation.
conversion.
I'll do
The
the
conversion.
conversion. Yeah.
Can you? Can I
I
do it
mean,
now?
I will after the show. I will. So you're exactly 2 meters. I don't know. I know it's over 6 feet. It's well over 6 feet. But
Yeah, it's 6.5 or 6.6, 6.7.
so then you're tall. Yeah, you're pretty damn tall then. Yeah. I mean, you tower over most people anywhere, Peter, is what you're saying, right? I mean, the air up there. I mean, you're breathing a. I mean, you can pretty much put your nose in the ionosphere up there.
Well, yeah, sometimes even if yeah, especially when I climb onto the Eiffel's Tower,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me higher, and
I
I'm
mean,
not
I have to stand on
watching.
my toes. I have to stand on my. I'm
Yeah,
being cheeky, but yeah, I have to stand on my toes.
we're living in we're living in an era when almost everything is possible.
Yeah,
So
it is. Yeah.
we're having the situation of people having their teeth regrowing, which I have to do with my tooth over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say 5 years, at most 5 years since this conversation, there will be regrowing fingers of the people who've lost them inside an accident or something. So so there is the bio uh, you know, resonant medicine that has been founded by Pyotr Gerlyaev, the Russian scientist who worked for KGB. And of course, the bio-resonant medicine can allow you to regrow your teeth, your fingers, your kidneys, and everything else. So why not to make the individual altitude higher?
I mean, I've seen the human ears grown on the back of a mouse. So why wouldn't we be able to regenerate?
Oh yeah, and that's not applicable exclusively on rats or newts.
That's just an example. Yeah.
Yeah, newts have that natural inherited. We were talking about news before starting to record our shows, right? And Anna and
Hmm.
Ruben, they've said that they are not familiar with that word, and my wife wasn't either. So I've shown the pictures of newts to my wife, and she looked at the image of the amphibia members, which are the distant relatives of frogs. And she said, I've never really had an idea that these things are existing,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So, you know, that's why I said I'm not watching the world from the frog's perspective, not even from the news perspective. But if newts, for those of our audience who are not familiar with, those are the members of the amphibia cluster or gender, the genus, who are capable of rejuvenating and regrowth of their limbs separated from their body system. So even the eyeballs can be recovered and regrown, and they can redevelop, the limbs, the legs and arms, and even their tails can, and even their jaws can regrow.
Extraordinary. Yeah.
Again, yeah. So, and there, it's extraordinary thing that it's natural inherited to those species, to those creatures. So why not the humans? Why cannot the humans do? Why could not the humans do the same?
Hmm.
So the bioresonant medicine is practically doing the same. You know, with the regrowth of the limbs, cut off or something like that, or people who have the problem with their vocal productors or eyeballs or anything, and it's involved and related to what Dr. Ernst Moldashev does. And it's a whole different story, but it's connected with it. And we can discuss about that in one of our upcoming shows as well. So why not to alter and to change people's height? I mean, if they want to.
Hmm.
I mean, not in the primitive way like the Chinese were doing. They were, you know, uh, putting the bars, inside of a fibula or a femur. So, the femur bone, so
Hmm.
in order to enlarge, the altitude, the height of a person but there ain't no need for such a ferocious methods, because, if we can impact the the genome, the DNA, the very DNA to get altered, to start behaving differently, if we and when we put it on the embryo genetic level, like it previously was after the incarnation. So anything is possible. We can even alter uh, genetics itself and pass beyond the limits and boundaries of genetics itself. So if the parents of the individual were shorter, we can even alter that. So this
Hmm.
is what the new medicine does. It actually erases the suffering. I mean, so relatively soon, each one of us would be able to choose its own destiny
And Peter,
in
to
the
your point, I
medical.
mean, this story was relayed to me by Anna, and that she said that she had either a friend of hers or some work acquaintance was going through the process of in vitro fertilization. So they couldn't. She and her husband couldn't get pregnant naturally, so they're working with a doctor through in vitro, and they said that everything you can choose everything for your child. You can choose if you want your child to have a genius IQ, an average IQ, below IQ, how tall it's going to be, how short it's going to be. Is it going to have a proclivity to overeating? Is the child going to be fat or skinny? I mean, or its eyes going to be blue or brown or green, or I mean, you can choose. You can go in there and choose every single genetic trait for your child, before they, before the pregnancy. I mean, or either before the pregnancy or during the pregnancy, you can determine every genetic and personality trait that that child is going to have before they're born. So what you're talking about is, I mean, it costs like 100 grand here in the United States to do that, but this is no longer on the frontier. I mean, this is today. This is reality today. That you can do. You can genetically engineer a child to have every character and personality trait that you want it to have. You can do that right now.
Yes, sir, I can. I mean, we can do that to our, future toddlers and offspring. I mean, to put it differently, I can choose, not only choose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you said even before the gestation period, even
I
before
think so. I mean,
pregnancy.
I don't want to be quoted on that, but it's one of those things where you can determine everything, whether it's before the gestation or during the early stages of the pregnancy. You can determine what that child's. You can pretty much determine that child's uh, character, personality trait, its talents, what it. You can determine this before it's born. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that's really amazing.
I
That's
mean,
what
if
it
you want
is.
your child to be like another Einstein or an Isaac Newton, you can do that. Or if you want them to just to be an accountant or a painter or a musician, you can give them those character traits, personality traits. I mean, you can determine this before birth. At least I know you can be done before the child's born. So you can determine all this genetically
Yeah.
by genetic alteration or genetic manipulation intention before the
Yeah.
child's born.
So let's say
So
even if
we're
I
talking
want
about
to,
genetic engineering. I mean, the genetic engineering is a reality to a very great to an advanced stage already that most people I don't think would be aware of. I mean, I know I certainly wasn't aware of how advanced it was before Anna relayed this story to me.
yeah, that's really
Yeah,
fascinating.
it's
That's where it
amazing.
is.
Yeah.
So even if I want to alter the whole state of mind and to uh, start singing differently from the operatic singing that I was
Yeah,
trained
you
for
could be
and
a
start
contralto, Peter. If
yeah,
you could be a contralto,
contra alto
contralto, you could.
or
Yes,
a
even you.
counter tenor, maybe
Yeah,
counter tenor.
yeah. Hmm.
Actually, I can sing in counter tenor, all right?
Okay. Yeah.
But that's maybe left to demonstrate in our future
Could
shows
be another show.
because
Yeah.
I talked too much using a normal pitch over here. Let's say it's a normal high berry. Let's say it's high berry, rotating up towards the tenor,
Yeah.
range.
I can't
So I was
the way I
yeah, yeah. So I can sing
Yeah, you can do
the
that. Okay.
counter tenor, yeah, or contra alto sometimes. Better stick to counter tenor. But let's say if I want to switch from the operatic singing style or the bel canto style, and if I want to sing like a soul singer, such like Isaac Hayes, and even if I want to
Oh,
get
you could do
bald,
that too, huh?
yeah, even if I want to get bald or to even become black, opposite
Yay.
from what Michael Jackson has done to himself, so everything would be possible,
Oh, yeah.
by altering the embryo genetic level,
Mm-hmm.
by the application of those methods
Yes.
that you just
Hmm.
mentioned.
Yeah, that's a reality today. Yep.
So even if I want to become, bald,
I mean, if I wanted to be a parakeet, it would be possible.
really?
Yes.
Woo.
We got to remind our audience that we are all. This is also a comedy show too, right? I mean, in case it was,
Yeah, that's where it is.
if there was any, if anything was foggy on that point, if there was anything unclear on that, we were also a comedy show here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't take it too seriously because
No,
life
don't.
itself isn't to be taken too seriously.
No, it's not. No,
That's one of the punchlines of our show.
that was the basic tenet of my high school chemistry teacher. If you asked him to distill the essence of life, it was that everything is a game and just don't take it too seriously. I mean, do your best. You give it everything you can, don't cheat yourself, but it's just a game, so enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, not only for the sports
Whether
events.
you're doing whether you're balancing quadratic equations or playing tennis or you're ruminating on the nature of the universe, don't take it too seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is a humorous show as well. What
Yes.
Anna told me when she conjoined to me and Ruben in one of the last shows, she said, "Okay, as one of your best critiques, yes, which certainly I am, I suggest you guys to put a little bit more humor inside of your show." And I said, I have a great sense for humor because my humoral glands are developed and large, so probably, we can deal with it,
Yeah. I think,
because
yeah. I think we just tapped into that vein. Yeah.
yeah, because even the
Great.
politicians, they apply a lot of humor, and people don't realize that.
They do.
People
Yeah.
think that the thing is serious, and they're making good jokes over
I mean,
there.
they issue an apology when after they say something funny. They have to, it's the same principle of if you ever catch a politician telling the truth, they issue an apology. So anytime they're
Well,
being humorous, they issue an
well,
apology as well.
well, something's wrong with a person if you ever caught a politician speaking the truth.
Well,
Something's
like I
wrong
said,
with the person.
they hold a press conference and they apologize. That.
Yeah, but just let me conclude with the previous point of altering our own state of mind and body system by our own free will, because
Mhm.
that's what we have to do. We have to choose our own fates and life paths
Mhm.
and the float of our incarnations by our own free will. And it's worthy of mentioning over here at this point that in our DNA, we do have the possibility of altering and changing and overcoming the current outer shape.
Mhm.
And I stand by this
Mhm.
statement because we really do have that possibility to change our bodily shape in our inherited in our DNA structure. It's in the DNA core,
Mhm.
so it's practically the same that the shamanic, adepts, the wizards from South America.
Yeah, the shapeshifters.
The
Yeah.
Nagual, yeah, the Nagual,
Not
they
well,
they
yeah.
do that.
Carlos
When they,
Castaneda, obviously, and Don Juan got
yeah,
into that in great detail with the
described
shapeshifters.
in the books written by
Mhm.
Carlos Castaneda, and especially the first one, the teachings of
Mhm.
Don Juan, and later on the Eagle's gift,
Mhm.
and the separated reality. I mentioned, I'll stick to three of those, to those three, of his opus. I've read, I think I've read, the whole 10 of them, and you've got that, the book of interviews with Taisha Abelar, which is conjoined, and considered the 11th. But it was a great guy, nevertheless. So he described the situations and moments where those adepts, the wizards, were actually transforming and making the transfiguration of their own bodies into the the, the bodies of a jaguar.
Mhm. Mhm.
So this is practically what a Nagual does. You know, Los Brujos, you know, the
I'm not
Brujos,
familiar with the term.
the witchcrafters.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they can do that because why they can do that? Because uh, they have reached the moment where they can put the possibility of changing the outer structure of the body inherited and present in DNA to the operational to the operative level. So they can do it as just as a normal person would switch
Mm-hmm.
the buttons and the wall and produce a day or a night. You remember the jealousy Hawkins, later renamed as Kramer J. Hawkins, the great soul,
Oh, the singer.
rock and roll singer,
Mm-hmm.
the godfather and the founder of the shock rock.
I put a spell on you. Is that what you're
although
alluding to?
he didn't write that composition. It's been ascribed to him, although it's a different author, but he was the first one who recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Call me Brujo," in one of his songs. So, call me the wizard,
Mm-hmm.
the witch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, El Brujo, Los Brujos. So he wanted to be an operatic singer, like me. So, but he didn't succeed, and he was kind of frustrated. So he switched to show gospel, to Negro spiritualities and to rock and roll, and he's thus considered the godfather of shock rock, which later on, turned into a whole lot of variety of performers and artists that we know very well, of course. And, nevertheless, he was a disciple, a thorough student of Paul Robeson,
Mm-hmm.
the great, African American bass baritone operatic singer, who sang, Old Man River,
Go ahead.
Old Man River. So there is a whole story connecting, and spanning from the operatic style by Screaming Jay Hawkins, blues and soul and rock and roll activities, way up to the shock rock field. So why am I mentioning him? Because he said, in a humorous way, he said the same as we were just mentioning over here. He said, "Call me Brujo," because he was researching the ways of the wizards, like has been described in Castaneda's books.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to reach out the same status, and to be able to alter the bodily system,
Mm-hmm.
with ease. Would you?
I would, yes. I don't know what I'd like to transmogrify into, but I'd come up with something.
Yeah. And we don't have necessarily to choose a lizard style and era shape, because it's sounds like a stereotype to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Because David was describing a lot of those switchings, into the form of a lizard, getting the lizards, the reptilian features. I mean, maybe we can transform into birds.
I'd like to be a Labrador Retriever.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes.
That's really amazing.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Definitely. I have to think about maybe I should transform into a bush or a tree trunk of coffee, because I love coffee.
I'd like a blue whale too. I'd like to be any whale: humpback whale, blue whale, beluga whale, sperm whale,
Even the humpback
whale. Yeah, any kind of whale. Yeah, I think they have.
Or porpoise maybe.
Oh, porpoise. No, I mean I like the whale.
Porpoise,
I mean,
yes.
aren't the whales the blue whale, I think, especially dives the deepest into the ocean, and they always come up for air too. So I mean I think they get the most comprehensive understanding of what's going on under the sea, a blue whale. So I'd like to know what's going on under the sea, to the extent that a blue whale knows. I'd like to have that. I'd like to experience that. So yeah.
Yeah, one of my latest dreams, I mean, some of my latest dreams, because I dream in series. So the subject for, within that was lasting within a couple of the 4 to 5 latest weeks was me surrounded by whales in the ocean. I swear, because I was imagining them. I was thinking about re-going to the ocean coast that I haven't seen for 7 years, and I would like to get closer to get closest to the whales again. And I was watching a lot of YouTube clips containing whales and diving with them, the scuba diving with them, and the close encounters between humans and whales. So and those are the fascinating beings.
Hmm.
So maybe we can cover up the subject of dreams within
Hmm.
our further shows, because it's a fascinating story.
And they're all, I mean, do you think about how intelligent this, well, any sea life, animal life, and I'm thinking about the story of Thor Heyerdahl, when he built that
Oh
massive
yeah, the
Kon-Tiki that
great
proved
guy,
that the Polynesians were able to sail across the Pacific Ocean, and
the
he
Kon-Tiki expedition,
the Kon-Tiki
Kon-Tiki.
expedition and with Thor Heyerdahl, like in the 1940s or 50s, and how in his descriptions of the journey, he said that talking about all the sea life that came up, from the ocean, and they were staring at them near the surface of the water because they were curious. It's like, what the hell are these human beings doing in the middle of the ocean? So it was the curiosity and the intelligence to be curious that brought all the sea life to the surface to watch them on their journey, to accompany them on their journey too. I thought that was that was of all the many fascinating points from the Kon-Tiki expedition. That really struck me more than anything was that the sea life itself was fascinated with what those guys were doing out in the middle of the ocean.
Oh yeah, because that's switching the referential standing point. I mean,
I mean,
it's
they. I mean,
always always alters.
the sea animals have the same curiosity that we as human beings have when we go outside at night on a clear night to look at the stars, to watch the shooting stars. I see the same curiosity that we have to do that. The fish and the dolphins and the whales and all the other animals that came to the surface had that same curiosity that we have. On a clear starry night.
Oh yeah, I vividly remember Tor Heyerdahl's books. I mean, he died in 2002. It was in this century. So there's been a
Yeah, he was old.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a movie typed after the book.
Hmm.
And I read the book twice, once in my childhood and once recently. So it was really a great adventures book. The whole story, how he was getting the permission from the UN organization to go to Peru
Hmm.
and to slide down with those canoes, into the river, and to get into the ocean to try in an attempt to repeat
Yeah.
the original trajectory, the traveling line of those indigenous
Hmm.
South Americans, in order to prove that there has been a journey from the coast of South America way to the Eastern Islands and
Yeah, that it
all
was
across
possible.
Polynesia.
Yeah.
And regarding the mutual relationships with between the maritime mammals, and humans, there is, I think, has been ascribed to John Lilly, the great guy who was living till his 101 year of age, and he was devoted researcher of dolphins.
Hmm.
So when you dive into and do a lot of research about one topic, like dolphins are,
Hmm.
you suddenly come up to a point of switching the the standing point. So you get into asking yourself, how does it seem like from a dolphin's perspective? Because there's been the quoted and and recorded frequent attempts of dolphins to try to communicate with humans for thousands of years, probably even unsuccessfully, mostly. And he said, okay, we are standing here at the very edge of the pole or the verge of an ocean, the littoral, the ocean coast, and watching the whales or dolphins or porpoise, rambling around and enjoying the sea. But and we're asking ourselves how they're dealing with. But probably the same question as rambling across their minds, and brains. Probably those, maritime mammals are asking themselves the same: what do those humans or what the strange organisms doing? What are they doing here on the coast?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so referential. It's not been scientifically approved either yet that humans are smarter than whales. Maybe they aren't.
Yeah.
Instead.
I agree. Yeah.
Not only about the size and proportions of a brain, which is as the size of a car, by the way, which is fascinating, but it's not. If we are able to produce an A-bomb or a symphony, it doesn't make us definitely and surely smarter than the whales are.
And who's to say that the whales aren't? I mean, the whales produce. I mean, they do the song of the whale. I mean, they produce symphonies under the ocean. You think about their music.
Yeah,
they're musicians.
They are, probably. And certain musicians apply the whale songs and compositions into their, the CDs. They implement the whales songs into their opus. I was listening some of the music deeds personally, so those are beautiful. So when you get that ayahuasca experience that we were talking about, you suddenly become aware that all of the plants on the Earth's surface represent one single plant that are coherent, mutually, and interconnected in their inner structure by the neurotransmitters and information, which have the electric nervous structure of a nervous system practically. And you become aware that all of the whales are interconnected and that an echo of each particular whale can be heard by any other whale.
Anywhere in the ocean. Wow.
Anywhere in the ocean.
Wow.
Anywhere on the planet practically.
That's amazing.
So they kind of intercommunicate.
That's amazing.
They are gifted by an internet and a way of communicating amongst themselves, which is slightly different from ours, but it's very sonic and it's very interesting to research. And probably we are also interesting for their researching too.
Yeah, I mean,
probably. Maybe they are watching us right now somehow. I'm not saying that they aren't, and they are asking themselves, "What are those guys, Luke and Peter, doing over here?" They're making gossip upon us. I mean, that's strictly forbidden. And I watched regarding the changing the standing point, the referential point. I've watched a clip saying that there is 1,004 stellar systems that are observing us right now.
Oh.
Not only our show, not only me and you, not only our show, but now probably Johnny Carson's as well. I mean,
how do we know that they are observing us right now? How do we know that?
Well, probably they are receiving the signal. I don't know.
Mhm. But are they sending us a return signal that's notifying us that they are watching us? Because how do we know that there are 1,004 that are watching us right now?
Well, I ain't sure exactly about the number of, but maybe it's been roughly said. I don't know, but the scrutinizing or some kind of a surveillance certainly does exist. I mean,
Because I'm getting, I guess
nothing against.
what I'm getting to, Peter, is that I mean I know with Carl Sagan was talking about sending a radio signal into outer space, and then thinking that that's the most practical way to reach out to another intelligent life form out there is because if they're thinking that they would send us back another radio signal back. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is have these other star systems or stellar systems, have they responded to us in kind? Have they sent us any either musical or mathematical radio frequencies to that extent, or something similar akin to that would lead us to know that they are receiving our messages and that they are sending us messages back? What kind of messages have we gotten back from them, if any?
Well, I ain't sure about well, I am sure about a certain amount of messages that received back from them. Well, those are, I mean, the beeping sounds or beams of light spreading against the universe. I mean, the known cosmos,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the information uh, in the form of Samuel Morse, alphabet or something.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, those are the first, uh, second, third, and the fourth uh, great close encounters,
Mm-hmm.
the mutual encounters between the species. But you were mentioning Carl Sagan, and I remember his novel, the situation from his novel Contact,
Mm-hmm.
that I read in the past century, which is an amazing novel nevertheless, and it's been turned into a movie
I've seen and
entitled the
read
same.
both. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I've seen the
Yeah,
movie and read the book as well.
yeah, starring Jodie Foster and
Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey. Thank you, Matthew McConaughey. And so you remember the situation when they were receiving the signal, or they were receiving the signal that they've sent, that the extraterrestrials received, and those were the Olympics in Munich.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, or Berlin, and it was Berlin, 1936, and starring Hitler in the main male role. So, certainly they are capable of capturing any visual or an audio signal of an event, of any event, whether on this planet or in its interior or anywhere out of the solar system and far beyond, no matter which phasal moment it occurred in.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly they are even capable of capturing. I'm saying they as if they were a group or something, because there are many species. There are an infinite number of species. But I'm talking about those ones who are known to us.
We see this same motif at the end of The Abyss too. You remember that extended
Yeah.
version of The Abyss where they're sending us images from the past.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And even if our species is capable of receiving the images of the future, I'm repeating, receiving the images of the future by mediation and utilizing Nikolai Kozyryev's mirrors,
Mm-hmm.
which is to be left for our further sessions, of course, because it's fascinating. we can only imagine what they are capable for.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
as humans still,
Yeah,
let's say maybe,
for us to think that that's the limit of their power is
yeah,
laughable, right? I mean,
maybe
they,
you, well,
yeah.
let's say amongst us, let's say that maybe you and I are extraterrestrials pretending to be humans who infiltrated on this planet Earth. I mean, to finish certain things. But let's say that we're going to remain humans for this show.
Mhm.
So if we humans are capable for receiving the images of future, not only past and present, by those mirrors, let's just imagine what those extraterrestrial species are capable for.
Yeah, we
I
can't
mean,
imagine what they're capable of.
isn't that a proof that this is an extraterrestrial? I mean, are you familiar with this kind of motion?
I'm not. What is that?
That's my hand.
I know it's your hand, yes, but what is your hand doing? I see the fingers wiggling, but
Well, doesn't it sound like an extraterrestrial life form?
it does.
They,
Yeah.
they could breathe for. Look. See?
I I hope they don't do
We're
that.
not gonna cut it out.
Well, I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, those are the
I hope they're benevolent.
extraterrestrial hosts exposed.
Yeah.
And we're gonna bring the other extraterrestrials to our show. I firmly support the idea to recall Gavin in our show
Yeah,
and
he's great. I hope he comes back. He
in
said
Las
he will.
Vegas.
Yeah, I hope he does. I think he's going to. Yeah, hopefully next week.
When he's gonna be able to participate?
I don't know
Next
what
week?
day. I don't know what exact day, but he said sometime next week. Yeah, hopefully so next week we'll have him on.
Yeah, and I'm having a couple of very interesting guys,
Mhm.
like the already mentioned JB and Bobby Savior, and there is an Italian guy, a friend of mine who also speaks the foreign languages, who's a lingo maniac as well. So probably they can participate, and I think that our audience would be grateful to have them because they're really very sympathetic and very interesting,
All right.
persons
Mhm.
to show up with.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
All
the
right.
show must go on.
It
Yeah.
must go on, and it will. It will. All right, Peter. Peter, well, we've been on this for like 2.5 hours now. So, do you feel like we're at a good place to call it a day and say to be continued?
Oh yeah, and that's exactly what we have to seize it now. I mean, to prevent ourselves from further exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we're gonna have a new
Because
guest on. Hopefully Saturday. I'm gonna have a new guest on. Hopefully we'll have him on. Yeah,
Saturday,
Saturday. As of now,
the upcoming
yeah,
one.
yeah. I have somebody tentatively scheduled for Saturday. So long as they make an appearance, they will be here Saturday.
Yeah, and
9
you're talking
a.m.
about a guest
A
of
guest.
ours.
Yes. Yes.
Gavin.
Oh,
Yeah.
not guy. This is someone else. This is another guest. This is someone else.
Okay, let us keep it as a surprise.
And we'll leave it a surprise. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Not even I don't know that either.
Oh, his
so
name's
I don't even
McCoy.
have
He goes by the name McCoy.
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 Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
It's from Midwest, perhaps.
No, I think he
Kentucky
he lives here in Sarasota.
Oh, is your neighbor?
Yeah. He's a neighbor here. Yeah.
Okay, he lives somewhere behind the gator pool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He wrestles
All right.
alligators in his free time.
Yeah, that's great. He does the arm wrestling with the gators.
Oh yeah, he arm wrestles alligators. Yeah. Yep.
This is weird. This is getting better and better.
It is.
Okay,
yeah.
so say my best to him, and I'm barely waiting to continue our show, my friend.
All right, Peter. Sounds great. So I will see you Saturday morning. Well, Saturday afternoon your time, Saturday morning my time.
That was great. Somewhere around 3 p.m.
Yeah, around 3 o'clock. Yeah, 3 o'clock your time.
All right. Always there for you, my friend.
All right, Peter. Good seeing
It's
you.
been a great day.
Next time. been a great
Till
show.
next time, my friend.
All right, I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.